News Talk 790 KFYO 738. Tom and Laura, we're talking with Randy Neugebauer on the line. Hey, Congressman, good morning. Where are you today? Are you on the Hill?
I'm on the Hill. Yeah, it's a pretty day here in Washington, D.C., and a busy week.
All right, got a question for you, if you don't mind me asking a personal question.
That's always scary, isn't it?
That is scary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Laura, help me out here.
Okay, now, here's the thing. America's waiting, and we want you to answer this question honestly. Okay?
Okay.
Do you make your own coffee?
Yes.
What type of coffee maker do you use?
The Carrick.
Whoa! Let me tell you something. We were talking about this just a minute ago.
How often do you clean your coffee maker?
You know what, Laura, that's a good question. About every 6 months, you pour some vinegar water in there and
right.
kind of run it through there. And, so I do that about every 6 months.
Let me give you a wake-up call,
about
man.
how a lot of people don't do that, and their coffee makers are disgustingly growing all kinds of bacteria.
There are more bacteria on these coffee makers than they found germs on a bathroom doorknob. So
really,
yeah.
Ew.
So what I'm wash your hands before returning to work. A, B, Randy, you need to run that vinegar through your machine a little more often than once every 6 months. Maybe once every 6 days. How about that?
Wow.
All right,
now you really discouraged me.
I know, we've totally ruined that cup of coffee in the morning, haven't we?
Yeah. I just had one, by the way.
Great.
Spit it out. All right. Now, speaking of the Endangered Species Act, now that you've been endangering yourself for God knows how long, what is this Endangered Species Act thing that you introduced? And then we want to ask you about the lesser prairie chicken because they just took that off the hit list.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about in every area of regulation is the science that these agencies use, and particularly Fish and Wildlife. And so basically this is a piece of legislation that I introduced last Congress. Basically it just says that before you can start down that path, that you have to show everybody all of the science and the data that you've gathered that leads you to believe that you need to start trying to list this particular species. And at the same token, for example, the states, let's just use Texas, the Texas Fish and Wildlife Agency would have an opportunity to review that data, but also to show the federal government their data and their statistics to either, affirm or disaffirm some of the facts that the government's using. And the EPA, and the Fish and Wildlife folks would have to, take that data into account. So basically, we're doing two things here. One is making the government be more transparent about their science, and secondly, having a little bit more open dialogue between the states and the federal government before you start taking away people's property rights.
Well, is the government science? Is it really? I mean, who sits there and keeps track and says, "Oh, this is real science. This is not. Oh, this is a good study. That's a bogus study." I mean, come on. Honestly, I mean.
Well, I think that's the point, Tom. Is that we think that more than just the government saying trust us, this is good science, is that they have to be more transparent about that science. And we're doing that same. We're having that same dialogue and discussion with the EPA on their science as well, because these regulations and these listings have a real impact on American citizens and their property.
All right. In the paper over the weekend, I saw that they had delisted the prairie chicken the lesser prairie chicken from the endangered species list. I guess that's good for a lot of West Texas farmers?
Well, that's a little bit what we did in the National Defense Authorization Bill. There was a amendment in there to delist it. Obviously, that has to be passed in the Senate, the National Defense Authorization Bill, and then have to be signed by the President. But I think what you're going to see members of Congress do, for example, another thing that we did here recently was to, this Waters of the United States, where they're trying to declare stock ponds as, waters of the United States. So you're going to see, I think, Congress in the appropriation bills and some of these authorization bills, try to kind of roll back some of the things that the administration's doing.
jestingly, I say, I guess we're going to see, if this continues, we're going to see a lot of stock ponds that are reduced to 29.5 feet in diameter, just so they fall under that 30-foot wide deal. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous, Tom, and it's a lot of our producers around the country are very concerned about that.
Yeah. All right, Randy Neugebauer at 7:43. We'll be back. News Talk 790 KFYO. Somebody somewhere was not able to dodge the bullet over the weekend. I guess that would be Abu Sayyaf, Randy Neugebauer. On this Delta Force thing that goes into Syria and gets a hold of this ISIS finance guy. Did you guys know anything about this before it happened? I mean, and whose idea was this? Is this a new Joint Chief guy, or, I'm just kind of curious. Who made that decision? I mean, I'm glad that they went after the guy and they got him.
Well, Tom, several questions there. I did not have personal knowledge about it. Now, they could have briefed our Intel committee prior to those operations, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think what we don't know about this is this a target that we've been watching for a long period of time. I mean, one of the things that we've been very concerned about is how these terrorist organizations are being financed, and particularly some of these, ISIS is being financed by black market oil to the tune of, some people say, over $1 million a day. And so this would be a high-value target, not only just for what's going on in Syria, but, globally with our, operations against terrorists, and particularly the ISIS organization. So, we want to commend those special forces folks for a job well done, and that was a high-value target. I think one of the things that I saw this morning is that the debriefing indicates that they got a lot of very valuable hard drives, cell phones, documents, and stuff like that may have even helped us to, investigate a little bit deeper into some of these black market oil operations that are going on.
Well, I'm just kind of curious, Laura. They said that they had I think 11 people were killed, and they captured, cell phones, computers, all these other things. I'm wondering, do you think that maybe there was anybody taken alive as, somebody to interrogate? I mean, besides his wife. Yeah.
Oh, there were no other reports of anyone taken.
So
what we
heard. I think it'd be hard to ascertain that, because they may or may not want to divulge that they have some prisoners that they're going to interrogate. I mean, I think one of the things that what you were able to learn is what the military allowed you to learn, and in some cases it's better for us to not divulge everything about that operation that might give away some opportunities.
Right. We don't need to broadcast everything.
It's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. Hey, I just have a question, and this is something that just goes through my mind, and I'm sure that it's going through a lot of people's mind. At this point in time, at this very moment, okay, where do you take, well, that's her name, Sayyaf, his wife. I mean, do you take her to Gitmo? Where do you take her? The Honolulu Hilton?
She's not necessarily a criminal.
Excuse me?
Have you seen how ISIS takes women and, holds them hostage? We've heard reports about that. She may be a victim of ISIS herself. Or she may be very, very guilty of, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that she would be questioned. And I understand there was another woman that was in the compound, and she may or been there against her will as well. And like I said, there may have been other people of interest that were taken in that operation, and so I'm sure there's a protocol for interrogating those folks.
I thought it was interesting that they decided to hide behind women and children as they were being attacked. That really showed their manhood.
Exactly. I think, what you have to understand is the culture over there, and these people, have, no morals whatsoever. They'll use children and women, for devices to blow people up and hide behind them, like you said, abuse them. These are bad actors.
Right. And I hope we take every opportunity to get every bit of information we can, because this was a successful operation.
Bring back the water board.
Well,
that's not what I'm saying.
Here's the thing about, getting that data and those hard drives and those cell phones is, that then helps us, on a global basis to determine, how large of an organization this was and who he's talking to and who's talking to them.
And maybe what was coming up next.
Exactly. And, and I think that's a point that we've talked about on the program a lot is that our intelligence assets are an extremely important part of keeping America safe, because these folks are operating on a global basis and are using the technology out there. It makes it more and more difficult to track them. And so, trying to find the right balance there and making sure that we have the intelligence assets in place to keep the bad things from happening.
Congressman Randy Neugebauer on Lubbock's First News with Collins and Mack. Okay, the Trade Promotion Authority. Okay, Randy, the nuts and bolts of this deal. Okay, this gives the president the authority to negotiate trade agreements, but really, in the bullseye on the target, like the Pacific Rim and places like that, when all this stuff started blowing up on the rim and people started making the investments, the U.S. wasn't really even at the table. We were just like on the sideline watching, right?
Yeah, and I think what this Trade Promotion Authority sets up, an opportunity for us to, pass this Trans-Pacific Partnership, which involves a lot of Pacific Rim countries. The reason this is important is that opens up some global markets for U.S. companies. All of the countries we have trade agreements with now, we have a trade surplus. With the ones we don't, we have a negative trade. So this is an important piece of legislation, and we'll see if we can get that across the line this week.
Okay, when we expect the final vote on this week?
It could. The Senate is a little bit in. Some of the Democrats blocked it last week, and so we're waiting to see if they can get that done this week. But we could see it in the House this week as well.
Okay. Hey, Randy, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. Hey, do me a favor. Do yourself a favor, man. Clean your coffee maker.
Clean your coffee maker. Absolutely.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
See ya.